It's a complicated space, and if you've ever been into any pharmacy anywhere, you go to the eye drop section and there's a wall of drops. If you go onto the online shops, there's pages and pages and pages of drops because there's so many different sorts, and people get lost. And if you go into a pharmacy for advice, the thing to sort of remember is the pharmacy assistants that are helping you are not, they're not pharmacists often. They can be, but normally they're pharmacy assistants, which have done some small courses, and they've had meetings where sales reps have, given them lunch and talked about their products. So the thing that they'll often suggest most is the one that they had suggested most recently in the last meeting where they had lunch last week. So some companies are very good at pounding the pavement and talking to pharmacy assistants and getting their products front of mind when they're talking to their clients and their customers coming in. The downside to that is some of the companies that are most aggressive in that regard, ones that have got some drops that are really quite bad for dry eye, so that often mask symptoms. And I won't mention brand names, but there are things called vasoconstrictor drugs, which are really commonly used, which are to get rid of redness, and they're really commonly used, and it's an addictive almost process. But the more you use them, the more you change your vessels and the more things are permanently changed in your body. But additionally to that, you think about what happens when you take an antihistamine tablet and you've got allergies and you've got a runny nose. It dries up your nose, doesn't it? So if you put an antihistamine eye drop in the eye, it dries up the eye. So if you've got things wrong and you've put the wrong drop, you're going to make your situation worse, not better. So there are some really lovely eye drops that I tend to use, but I guess I'm a special case because the people that come to see me are already in a bit of trouble. They've already tried a range of products. They've been through the mill and they've tried A, B, C, D, and sometimes people come in with a bag of all their eye drops that they've tried and failed with, and then they bring in one bottle, which is the one that they like at the moment. And other times people come in with a list and they say, like, I've tried all of these and I don't like them, or they're not working for me. So it's a hard thing to say, but I've got some good drops that I would recommend if you were having some dry eye symptoms. There are some drops that are probably a safe bet, and I don't like betting. I don't like gambling with things. I like to look at someone's eyes, assess them, and then give the right drop for them because not everyone's eyes are the same. But there's not much you can do wrong if you chose one of the drops that I'm about to suggest. They'll help most people. And I guess that comes down to preservatives. Preservatives in eye drops and in medicines are there for a reason. And preservatives are there to keep us safe. So pathogens and nasty things don't grow in liquids, which is what eye drops. And and that's a sort of important thing. So most eye drops historically have got preservatives, and some of those preservatives can be quite nasty, which is good because that means they kill nasty bugs, but they're also a little bit nasty to the eye, especially if we're using them in a chronic way, if we're using them a lot. So the more you use an eye drop that has a preservative, the more impact it has. So, and often when someone's quite dry, they'll be using eye drops, 5 times a day, 10 times a day, more than that. And that's where preservatives start to really cause problems. So if I want to suggest something that's really safe, it would be a preservative-free eye drop. And how can that be safe? And the idea with preservative-free eye drops, they come in two forms. One is unit dose, so they have little vials or sachets that you can snap the top off and you can use that eye drop and you can use that for that day and then throw. And the second way is there are bottles and patented bottle designs that have got filters in them. And these filters allow an eye drop to be sterile inside the bottle and then be safe when it comes out to go into the eye. And they normally have a slightly reduced use by period. And most of those products are about 3 months, but some of them are a shade longer than that, depending on the patented design. So some of these can be in pumps and some of these can be in bottles. So the eye drops that I tend to go for mostly are a product called, one containing an ingredient called sodium hyaluronate, or HA. And the reason for that is it's a very low salt content lubricant. And we know with dry eye symptoms, it's almost always with an elevated salt level. We call that osmolarity. So high osmolarity is a common feature of dry eyes. So the safest thing you can do is to put a low salt content drop onto that person's eye, because that's going to bring the salt levels down and make it feel better. And the three products that come to mind with that, there's an Alcon product called Alcon Sustained Hydration, and it's available in unit dose and it's available in a preservative-free bottle. There is Cadianorm, and Cadianorm is also available in unit dose and also a preservative-free bottle. And both of those products have got their own pros and cons. Both of them have got special ingredients, but they're both worth trying. And I get probably a 50-50 sort of split with my patients. Some are Team Cadianorm, they love that one, and they don't like the other one. And some are Team Sustained Hydration, and they don't like Cadianorm. But those two products are the ones that I use most frequently. The third product that I use is a slightly older product, and it's called Hylo or Hylo Fort. And Hylo Fort is non-preserved. It's in a bottle. It's in a pump, and it's PBS available. And it's a fairly convenient, simple product. It's what they call a mono ingredient, so it's got one active ingredient, whereas the other two have got multiple ingredients in them. So I like them because they affect the eye in multiple ways. And if we do head-to-head studies with them, they'll often be a bit more effective than just a mono ingredient like Hylo is. But Hylo's cheap and readily available, and the GPs are happy writing scripts for it. You can also get scripts for Catianol too, but only for a certain, only one of their products comes up on PBS listing.
So all of those product names that you just mentioned, are they all prescription eye drops or some of them non-prescription?
No, they're over the counter, but you can get them on prescription or over the counter, so you can do it both ways. And you've got to do the math on it. Sometimes it's cheaper just to buy it over the counter than to get it on PBS. The difference with that is probably the Hyla Fort ones. They've got a fairly solid deal. With when people get prescribed, they're getting a lot of product. So if you're using a lot of things, well, some patients really love it because they can carry that bottle around and they can use it, ad infinitum because they've got a heap in the pump.
Okay.
And it's
Well,
also commonly found in GP practices as samples on shelves. So if you
right.
go to your GP and talk about dry eye, that's the one they tend to grab because they've always got a freebie to give out.
Okay. So they're fairly well-known products then.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.